I've known you 2 minutes, and you offer for me to walk the earth like an ordinary peasant, while I give you the knowledge of immortals, the true science.
Good evening. The more pressing matter is the video released at the Senate hearing, the recent congressional hearing, and the video released by Representative Burleson.
Look, I'm not jumped to the conclusion that I believe that there are, aliens coming from another planet. But I'm open to that.
About a Hellfire missile actually hitting a UAP. Technically, this video allegedly has 3 main focal points. The UAP, the UFO, which is the strangest of the 3. You have the Hellfire missile, and you have the drones that recorded the video. I'm not here to talk about the drones. I'm gonna give a theory about what it is, based on the knowledge of the true reality we live in. I know what the object is not. It's not a balloon, for sure. A balloon would have inflated immediately after being hit by the Hellfire missile. The nature of the Hellfire missile with no explosive head and spikes rotating makes it very hard for this object to be a balloon. It would have lost altitude immediately, not continued. And the 3 parts that we see that followed the UFO after being hit by the missile would have actually been inflated directly and fallen if it were a balloon. So it's definitely not a balloon. The Hellfire missile only goal is to burrow, to hit a target very accurately, and with the spikes coming out, it burrows, it digs into the target, whether it were steel, whether it was concrete. This is how strong and fast the Hellfire missile is. Impacting a balloon would have immediately exploded, burst the balloon, and we would have seen it fall. So what we're seeing is something that could bounce, that could deform to bounce off the spikes and the actual Hellfire missile. It incurred some damage, of course, and we're going to talk about this, and it's really interesting too. But what is it? It's confusing, and I know why a lot of smart people are confused. Some scientists, some pilots, UFO researchers. They're confused because, and this is somewhat controversial, but this is my theory. They're either used to seeing objects that are completely solid in the air flying, or light, made of light photons, or objects floating in the sky. They've never seen an object that is, let's say, rubbery, made of rubber, although it's somewhat solid. It's not steel or wood. Could this explain why the Hellfire missile deformed the object, cut a piece of the object? If it were a rubber object, for example, take rubber for 5 seconds here. We're going to substitute rubber in a second. Do you know the 5 states of matter? We're used to knowing gas, liquid, solid, but do you know that there are 2 other states so far discovered? One of them is plasma, and the other is, I think, Einstein boson condensate, which we know very little of. Plasma, we know very little of. This is why these 2 states are seldom talked about. What I'm proposing is, what if this object that we're seeing is made of metamaterial, the famous metamaterial that UFO lore talks about, that is composed of 2 states of matter. On the outside, you could have a liquid that could bend and deflect missiles. You could have a plasma with certain characteristics. You could have Bose-Einstein condensate on the outside, and inside you would have solid. Have you ever thought about this? Maybe a metamaterial combines 2 states of matter. Haven't you heard in UFO lore about people talking about going into spaceships that seem to be bigger on the inside We're talking about an object that's made of metamaterial that is made of two states of matter. Now, and this is going to lead us to a nice Arabian Night story. When the missile hit the object deformed, deflected the missile. The missile had an effect, certainly, and it kind of ripped three parts that didn't deflate, that didn't stop flying, continued along exactly in the same trajectory as the original UAP that they separated from. Now, I'm not talking about quantum entanglement right here. You're getting a hint of what I'm going to talk about. I'm talking about the material, the metamaterial of the UFO is, and they talk about this a lot also in UFO law, is actually programmable. And we're going to simplify this in a sec. So you don't need propulsion, you don't need engines for propulsion. The material in by itself, the material that this object is made of, is anti-gravity, possesses an algorithm that propels it, conducts electricity and all the energy needed for its functioning, turning on and off. This metamaterial that is made of two states, apparently, after seeing the video. This metamaterial is programmable, also spoken about in many UFO lore and stories. Even recently, they're popping up more and more about the crafts being conscious. They're not conscious, they are controlled wirelessly by brain signals. They seem conscious to the neophile because he doesn't understand yet that the material by itself is programmable and contains all the energies and the functions and the, let's put it more scientifically, reactions that would produce anti-gravity, lift, thrust, tying it back to the three pieces that fell off. This is why they continued along the trajectory, continued with the object. They're not electromagnetically hooked, or there's not a small fiber that's still linking them and we can't see them. They seem independently flying in the same direction because the material that makes them is programmed, and the same program apparently survives to the parts that are broken off. That's interesting. How does it get us to the Arabian Nights, the 1001 stories from the Arabian Nights that come from stories, elements and symbols dating back 2,000 years, even further, with the Persian myths? I'm talking about Aladdin and the magic carpet. Although it was mainly inserted by Disney's movie, but the carpet in by itself that Aladdin flies on comes from Persian myth and lore dating back thousands of years ago. And because humans, we are still ignorant and stupid, we try to give it characters, put spirits in it that make it travel or fly. The carpet comes from King Solomon. King Solomon had a magical thingy that he and his army could step upon and go fly in the air to anywhere they wanted. This is where the Persian myth comes from. The Persians, because they were very good with textile, they put this object as a carpet. And then this carpet, because we don't understand, we didn't have the vocabulary, became a character in Disney's movie. Imagine a carpet of which the fabric in by itself contain all the electricity they need to run, the anti-gravity particles, the navigational system, everything. This is my 2 cents on the video. We are entering a new age of understanding, and with this channel, I'm gonna try to explain a little bit about the truth of the reality that we live in. But more importantly, we're gonna talk about the structure of reality and the hard problem of science, which is really Not hard at all. We'll come to that very soon. Thank you for following this rant, and I hope you subscribe because more is coming. Remember, you are a generation that has the Library of Alexandria, the internet, YouTube. You are smart yourselves. Each one of you is a genius. So don't ever doubt yourselves. So don't let anyone fool you. We'll see you soon.
I've known you 2 minutes, and you offer for me to walk the earth like an ordinary peasant, while I give you the knowledge of immortals, the true science.